I see no neutral things. I see no neutral things. That is lesson 17 from the workbook of A Course in Miracles. And I am going to read the notes from Kenneth Wapnick from his book, Journey Through the Workbook of A Course in Miracles. If you aren't familiar with Kenneth Wapnick, he is one of the most prolific writers and authors and speakers and teachers of A Course in Miracles. Underneath all of my YouTube playlists are all of the information how to get this book. This is a very helpful tool when you are going through the workbook, also of the physical book, A Course in Miracles as well. If you want to purchase that from Foundation for Inner Peace, that is who publishes it. It's that version that has all of the volumes in it. So please check that out. If you missed any of the previous videos on A Course in Miracles, if you're going through the workbook, we are on lesson 17. I started about a year ago and I got off a little bit on the wagon, but I have decided back then to do every single lesson of the workbook, 365. So this is a journey. And I really like to read the notes and just share my thoughts on each lesson because that was something I felt was missing in my journey when I started A Course in Miracles, reading the text. It was pretty heavy. So A Course in Miracles has 31 chapters of the text. If you are on lesson 17, you probably know that by now, but if you were just coming across this video and you want to listen in, A Course in Miracles, it has 31 chapters and then it has 365 workbook lessons. And we're on lesson 17 today. I see no neutral thoughts. So let's dive in. This follows directly from I have no neutral thoughts. Yesterday or the day before, we had lesson 16. I have no neutral thoughts. So I see no neutral things. It follows directly from the previous lesson. We find here the same pattern seen in the earlier lessons where Jesus goes back and forth between our thoughts and what we perceive, trying to help us understand they are the same. So what we're learning here is that our thoughts and what we perceive are the same thing. We perceive what we think. Our perceptions are projections of our thoughts. His purpose is to cultivate in us a vigilance in watching how we think, realizing that nothing we think, perceive, or interpret as the truth is correct. So Jesus goes back and forth between our thoughts and what we perceive, trying to help us understand they are the same. His purpose is to cultivate in us a vigilance in watching how we think, realizing that nothing we think, perceive, or interpret as the truth is correct. This takes great humility. Yes, it does. A Course in Miracles is a slap of humble pie. It is not for the faint of heart. Let me just tell you. And if you're this far along, you know that. I'm with you. I got you. So it takes a lot of humility to understand that we're not right about anything. This is one big hallucination. The ego's arrogance seeks to cover the fear of realizing we are wrong about absolutely everything, which ultimately includes ourself. Anytime you see an enemy out there or believe someone has the power to victimize, betray, or hurt you, you are saying you are right and Jesus is wrong. You are right because you can see and feel the attack and have the evidence to prove it. However, you are not aware that you planted the evidence so you could find it. This is the hardest part. Again, take what you like, leave the rest. The Course in Miracles ain't for everybody. But if we're honest with ourselves and we're open to this, we realize it's true. Even if it's on an unconscious level. And that's why we ask the Holy Spirit for help. Like, help me see this differently. Like, if I'm doing this to myself, help me change my thoughts about it. Let's read that again. So we're trying to say, listen, I am a victim. Did you see what they did to me? I'm right and you're wrong. However, you are not aware that you planted the evidence so you could find it when someone does you wrong. What you see is what you want to see. And so you put the evidence there and say, see, my thoughts are not the problem. In fact, my thoughts are nothing. The problem is out there. That is the problem. So we are just reinforcing that the outside world is real and we have nothing to do with it. And we are just a victim of this world. We're a victim of the world we see. There's another lesson. I am not the victim of the world I see, but that's in the future. Okay. So we are saying we see what we want to see. And so we put the evidence there and say, see, my thoughts are not the problem. It's not my thoughts that are causing this. In fact, my thoughts are nothing. My thoughts don't mean anything. The problem is out there. That's the problem. And almost always there is some special person that is the focus of your problem. These lessons attempt to train your mind to think this way all the time so that you automatically translate what you perceive outside into inner thought. Let's read that again. These lessons attempt to train your mind to think this way all the time so that you automatically translate what you perceive outside into an inner thought. It does not matter so much with coat hangers or waste paper baskets, but it does matter with the important relationships in your life. It also matters with unimportant ones, but there are always special people that take center stage. Remember, you see outside what you put there because you want to see it in the body, not the mind, thereby saying, my thoughts are unimportant because what I see is the fact. Thus, you must first recognize the fact is what you think. When you can look at that thought with Jesus, you will finally realize it is not a fact at all. As the text says, God is the only fact with a capital F. This idea, I see no neutral things, is another step in the direction of identifying cause and effect as it really operates in the world. The thoughts in our mind are the cause. The thoughts in our mind are the cause. The cause of what? Everything, every effect, including our physical body. Our body is the outside world. The thoughts in our mind are the cause, and our perceptions are the effect. Perceptions of the outside world, perceptions of our body, perceptions of people, of the universe, everything. The thoughts in our minds are the cause, and our perceptions are the effect. This is another way of expressing the important principle we cited in the first paragraph of commentary in Lesson 8 above. Projection makes perception. Projection makes perception. We think, we project it out, and it makes our perception. And what we're perceiving is because of what we're thinking. Projection makes perception. I first chose my teacher, the ego or the Holy Spirit, and that choice determines the thought system with which I identify, separation or forgiveness. It's very black and white. So he's giving us how the steps. Projection makes perception. I first choose my teacher, either the ego or the Holy Spirit, one or the other. We are either thinking with the ego or we're thinking with the Holy Spirit. So we first choose our teacher who we're going to listen to, and then that choice determines the thought system with which we identify. Separation, ego, or forgiveness, the Holy Spirit. I have made it real because that is what I perceive within me, the cause, and once projected, I perceive its manifestations all around me, the effects. You see no neutral things because you have no neutral thoughts. It is always the thought that comes first, despite the temptation to believe that it is the other way around. I will never forget when I first read this, and especially when I was like in grad school and, therapists and all that. There are some therapists that don't believe that the thought comes first. Drives me insane. So when I read this, I was like, But you know what? I forgive it. It's not even real. You see no neutral things because you have no neutral thoughts. It is always the thought that comes first, despite the temptation to believe that it is the other way around. I had written some notes um, from when I studied this about this being like a video game, and we play the game. If we want to get out of the game, if we want to stop playing this game, it's just like, if you played Mario Brothers, it's like you have a certain amount of lives and you keep pushing start, and Mario or whatever goes do 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 do, and you can like fall in a cave and then boop 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 boop, and then you start over and it's like reincarnation. And then you realize, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm over this. I am over this illusion. I am over this game of life. But that's what the Course in Miracles is saying. We don't even know we're in a game. And when we start waking up to it, it's absolutely startling and it freaks us out because we're like, if I'm not in it, if I am not Mario, if I'm not me, if I'm not Carla, if this is just an illusion, a video game, who the hell am I? And we get so frightened that we run for the hills and be like, oh, that's fun. That's a fun Course in Miracles. That's a fun book, right? And we're in denial because we identify so fully with our physical bodies and with the bodies of our family and people we love. But it's crazy because we suffer so much for that. We fear dying. We fear our loved ones dying. But then we purport to think, well, they're spirit, they're eternal spirit. Do we really believe that? Because if we did, we would be at peace. That's the point of A Course in Miracles, to be at peace, to know that we are not the body. Our family members aren't the body. We are pure spirit, one with God, straight up. And that is a beautiful thought. But to get there is, like A Course says, the thought system that gets us there is 180 degrees away from the thought system of the world and of the ego. And it's okay. We're in no rush. We awake when we awaken. But and everyone's at different levels, right? This kind of materialism for everybody, and it's okay, right? We're all on our journeys. But I think we are attracted to this material. I certainly was, because when you are suffering with depression or anxiety or addiction, and you throw your hands up and you say, there has to be another way. This isn't working. That's actually how this whole book came to be. Somebody just asked the question, there must be another way. This isn't right. And if you've ever questioned, like, especially if you grew up religious, like, what God would allow this, and this to happen? Like, he wouldn't. That's the answer. God would not. We would. We're the nutbags creating this shit show. And so it really just starts to wake you up. Anyway, so I was just reading my notes on the side. So we can either play this game with the ego, and ensure that we will be stuck in this game, playing it over and over, or we don't play it at all and believe that, like, we white knuckle it and we don't participate, deny it, take the aesthetic life, asceticism, where we deny the body, which some people do, and they like go to the Himalayas, and that's not right either. Or we play the game with the Holy Spirit and we GTFO. We get sober from this whole thought system. So either we play the game with the ego and we'll be stuck here for sure. We don't play the game at all. And that's also of the ego because we think we can. Or we can play the game with the Holy Spirit and bust out of this taco stand for good. So we see no neutral things because we have no neutral thoughts. It is always the thought that comes first, despite the temptation to believe that it is the other way around. We can most likely attest to the fact, even though we have read these lines both here and in the text, and on some level believe they are true, that our daily lives do not reflect this understanding at all. We react to what is external, forgetting what we are really reacting to is our having pushed Jesus away again, and then identifying with the ego's thought system of guilt. We react to what is external, forgetting that what we are really reacting to is our is our having pushed Jesus away again, our teacher who's going to teach us. We say, no, I don't want to listen to you. What we're really reacting to is pushing our teacher away and then identifying with the ego's thought system, bringing the ego teacher in, the system of guilt. We quickly forget this fact, project the guilt from our minds, and see it in people, events, and things, all threatening to hurt us and take away our peace. The purpose of these lessons and exercises is to practice seeing how we do not live this way, how we react to what is outside of us. Remember, what is outside not only includes other people's bodies, but our own as well. For outside refers to what is outside of our minds, not our bodies. This is good. So let me go back and reread this. So we can most likely attest to the fact, even though we have read these lines both here and in the text, and on some level believe that they're true, that our daily lives do not reflect this understanding at all. We react to what is external, forgetting that what we have really done is push Jesus away, and we identified with the thought system of guilt and of the ego. We quickly forget this fact. We project the guilt from our minds and see it in people, events, and things, all threatening to hurt us and take away our peace. The purpose of these lessons and exercises is to practice seeing how we do not live this way, how we react to what is outside of us. Remember, what is outside not only includes other people's bodies, but our own as well. For outside refers to what is outside of our minds, not our bodies. The point, again, is that we are not reacting to the world, not to our mind's decision, but to our mind's decision. So the point, again, is that we are not reacting to the world, but to our mind's decision. We're doing this to ourselves. It's so crazy. Moreover, it is important to remember that the decision for the ego is made up, for we react to the ego's illusory thought system that tells us how worthless, sinful, and wretched we are. The home of evil, darkness, and sin, as lesson 93 states. This is the insanity we have made real and never challenge. Thus, we are learning that not only is the world a defense, but so is our thought system of separation. The reality beyond both the world and the thoughts that made it is the love of God, the only truth. But isn't that wild? It says, it is important to remember that the decision for the ego is made up, for we react to the ego's illusory thought system that tells us how worthless, sinful, and wretched we are. We are the home of evil, darkness, and sin. This is the insanity that we have made real, and we never even challenge it. This is not the way the world thinks. Okay, so let me go back up. To end that paragraph, it says, the reality beyond both the world and the thoughts that made it. So beyond this whole projection from us, beyond it is the love of God, which is the only truth. But this is not the way the world thinks, but you must learn that it is the way that you think. Jesus is making it unmistakably clear that this casual connection between mind and body is something we have to learn, as he also makes clear in the other lessons, and that it takes tremendous vigilance and practice because our way of life is set up in the opposite way. That is the truth. So Jesus is making it unmistakably clear that this causal. Did I say casual? I did say casual. Jesus is making it unmistakably clear that this causal connection between mind and body is something we have to learn, as he also makes clear in the other lessons, and that it takes tremendous vigilance and practice because our way of life is set up in the opposite way. We have been programmed to think that it is the world that impinges on us and that the bad guys are out there in the world. Yet Jesus is saying to us here, this is something you are not going to understand right away, for it requires much practice. I am introducing it to you now for the first time, but we will go over it again and again. Jesus is therefore emphasizing that we are the student and he our teacher. And whenever we have difficulty with the text, the workbook, or manual, it is simply because we have become afraid of what he is teaching us. If it were not so, perception would have no cause and would itself be the cause of reality. So continuing from the lesson, it said, beyond all of this is the reality of God, the love of God, but this is not the way the world thinks, but you must learn to think that way. If it were not so, perception would have no cause and would itself be the same, would be the cause of reality. If it were correct that the world determines what we think, so listen to this. If it were correct that the world, what happens out here, determines what we think, then perception would be a reality and a cause. Namely, the objects of our perception would cause us to think and feel in certain ways. The truth, however, is that perception is the effect. We think that this world, perception, is the cause of our effect, of our emotions, but it's the opposite way. Our thoughts and our emotions are the cause, and this perception is the effect. The truth is that perception is the effect caused by our thoughts. Always keep in mind that projection makes perception. Projection makes perception, just like a projector screen. I always use the idea of if you're in a movie theater and there's the projector above and it's projecting out onto the screen of the world, the projection, whatever's in the projector, makes what we perceive, what we see out here with our peepers. We are projecting this world. Always keep in mind that projection makes perception. And you know what? Even in psychology, is it Freud or who's the psychologist that says, projection follows denial? And I think A Course talks about it too. When someone's in denial, they project onto others. But that is what A Course is saying. We are all in denial about what we have done, about the lie we're believing, about the smallness that we think we're these limited bodies that are separate from God and one another. And we're in denial about that. So we project it all outside of us and create this world of separation. We're in denial that we are one. We are in denial that we are one with God. So then we project out the separation, and then we see different bodies out here and different things and this whole world of animal, vegetable, mineral. And we think that God created it. And no, we did. And that's blasphemous to some people. So again, if you ain't picking up what I'm putting down, it's okay. You can just skip this video. But this was very disturbing to me too when I first read it, but it brought me such peace because there must be another way. Because again, if I did believe that God made this world, God, there's a line in a book, it just reminded me of if God made this world, this world is a tale told by an idiot. Look at the crap show. Yes, there's beautiful things too, right? This is not to be nihilistic, but what perfect God would create death and decay? And then we spiritualize it. It's insane. It's insanity. It's insanity. Okay. So the truth is, however, that perception is an effect. Projection makes perception. If perception has no cause, but is a reality independent of our thought, then it simply exists and there is nothing we can do about it. This, of course, describes the condition of practically everyone in the world. All right. So always keep in mind that projection makes perception. If perception, the things that happened out here, had no cause, but is a reality independent of our thoughts. So say we say, no, Carla, my thoughts don't create this world. This reality is just out here. God made this. I have nothing to do with it. If it's true that reality what's happening, the reality we think, this world, is independent of our thought, then it simply exists and there is nothing we can do about it. This, of course, describes the condition of practically everyone in the world. We do. We feel like a victim to circumstance, especially when bad things happen. This is why there is no hope once we have bought into the ego thought system. We cannot change what is. If our perceptions are not effects caused by our thoughts, then they must be real. Thus do death, evil, war, and suffering become reality, and there is nothing we can do except get through our lives as best we can. Jesus, therefore, teaches that what is out there, the world and body, suffering and death, is an effect, and the cause rests within our minds. So it's our minds that are thinking sin, guilt, fear, suffering, death, evil, war, and that's what's projecting in this world. And that just answered the question, like, of course, like, wow, there's a thought. God is real. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. But it's like, when you look at like the things that happen in this world, that does not have God's handprints on it. It has insane people's handprints on it, and we are the insane people, all of us. We're all one. We share the same thought system. It's activated in some people, and some people are in denial. And that's okay. But when you realize that deep down, you have very dark, hateful thoughts about people, maybe even people you love, maybe even your family members, just admit it. That's okay. Don't indulge it, but just give it to Jesus. Say, oh my God, look at me judging this person. That's what this is all about. Admitting. I have this thing over here that reminds me, we need to bring God. We need to bring the world and illusions. We need to bring ego and the world and illusion to God, to the Holy Spirit, to truth. Not bring God, the Holy Spirit, and truth down to this world. They would never come. Like, that's why it's like, when we try to bring God into this, like we try to spiritualize this world, we try to bring God into this world, it doesn't work that way. We have to bring this illusion up to God. We got to go this way. We can't bring truth to illusion. You can't bring the light to the darkness. You got to bring the darkness to the light. We can't bring illusion to truth. I mean, we can't bring truth to illusion. And that's like backwards from what we think. We got to bring the light. That doesn't work. We have to bring our darkness to the light, not bring our light to the darkness, which is a trip. Think about that. All right. So when we believe this, terrible dream, nightmare that we're having here, death, evil, war, suffering, when we realize that that is in our mind, it's an effect. All that stuff is an effect because the cause rests within our mind. We have thoughts like that. Once we identify the cause, we can do something about it. We can see another way. Otherwise, again, it is a hopeless situation. And then this final comment about perception. In view of its highly variable nature, this is hardly likely. Okay, so it proceeds from the following statement. So if this were not so, perception would have no cause and would itself be the cause of reality. In view of its highly variable nature, this is hardly likely. Perception, obviously, is highly variable. We can see that even within ourselves, a perception we had of someone one day when we could forgive, the next day becomes quite different. Yeah, perception is highly variable. The way we perceive things is highly variable because we can see that with ourselves. So a perception we had of someone one day can change the next day, depending on our inner state, choosing the ego or the Holy Spirit as our teacher. We either perceive the world through the eyes of judgment and hate or through forgiveness, period. The exercise follows continuing the training of our mind to understand the relationship between our thoughts and our perceptions. In applying today's idea, lesson 17, I see no neutral things. So in applying today's idea, I see no neutral things. Say to yourself with eyes open, I see no neutral things because I have no neutral thoughts. Then look about you, resting your glance on each thing you note long enough to say, I do not see a neutral microphone because my thoughts about the microphone are not neutral. I do not see a neutral microphone because my thoughts about the microphone are not neutral. That's the truth. I have a lot of thoughts about this microphone. It makes me feel a lot of certain ways. It reminds me a lot of stuff. For example, you might say, I do not see a neutral wall because my thoughts about the wall are not neutral. That's the truth. Look at your house. Either you hate the wall or you love the wall. The wall reminds you of something. There's stuff on the wall. The color of the wall. How long you've been encased in those walls. I do not see a neutral wall because my thoughts about the wall are not neutral. I do not see a neutral body because my thoughts about bodies are not neutral. Look at your hand. I do not see a neutral hand because my thoughts about my hand are not neutral. I will think something about this hand like, oh my God, I need to put some lotion on, or, oh, I'm getting old. You can see some wrinkles, right? Nothing we look on is neutral because our thoughts about it aren't neutral. We have no neutral thoughts. It's so incredible when we start understanding what our mind is really doing. Jesus' instructions for the exercises now focus on his ongoing refutation of the ego's first law of chaos, the hierarchy of illusions. As usual, it is essential to make no distinctions between what you believe to be animate or inanimate, pleasant or unpleasant, regardless of what you may believe. You do not see anything that is really alive or really joyous. That is because you are unaware as yet of any thought that is really true and therefore really happy. There is no animate or inanimate because nothing here is alive. Oof. There is no animate or inanimate because nothing here is alive. It's like, think about yeah, like a video game or like a virtual reality or like an avatar. When you're fighting with an avatar, like it's not real, but we think it's very real. So there is no animate or inanimate because nothing here is alive. As we recall, one of the basic categories we are taught from grade school on up is that there are living things that can be categorized as animate, part of the great chain of being, and non-living things that can be categorized as inanimate, like wood, metal, etc. Yet both categories are illusory, as we see in the Laws of Chaos section, which categorically states, there is no life outside of heaven. Right now, in this dream that we're experiencing, we are separate from heaven. That is truly the core of our pain and our suffering, according to A Course in Miracles. We might have glimpses in this dream of peace and happiness, but our soul knows that we don't belong here, that this is a nightmare. And sometimes the dream can look pretty, but we're going to die one day, and our family members are going to die, and that ain't cute. Like, when we are not in heaven, we are dreaming. We're dreaming that we are separate. There is no life outside of heaven. Jesus means that quite literally. And as a comforting metaphor, I don't know if it's in here or another book I read. Imagine when we're sleeping at night, or somebody you love. That's easier. Imagine seeing them sleep all curled up. Picture an animal if you want, a dog. They're sleeping and they're safe in your house. And you love them so much. And they're dreaming. And they might be dreaming of happy things, of sad things, but they're dreaming. None of it's real. They haven't left your house, but they think that they have. They think that they're in the good times, the bad times, all these times. And you're just gently reminding them and just gently trying to wake them up and whisper to wake up. And that's what God is doing with us. We are in heaven. We are already one with God. We are with God right now in heaven, but we are dreaming that we are not. And that is what A Course in Miracles is asking us, to wake up from the dream and actually be one, realize that this, and that's why we don't want to do this, because we don't want to let go of this dream. We like it. I like to be separate. I like to be Carla. I like to eat my Cool Ranch Doritos. I like to be special or think I'm special or put on my makeup or whatever, have my dreams, my goals, do my YouTube, read my books. I don't want to believe that I'm one with everybody, because then who would I be? I wouldn't be individual. But that is the ego. And we are addicted to that. We love it. And once we admit that, we know that this is right. What it's saying is right. So Jesus means quite literally that there is nothing, there's no life outside of heaven. Real life and real joy are found only by taking Jesus's hand and identifying with his thought system of forgiveness. It is joyful because it returns us to our real life as part of God, the only joy. However, we yet must learn how to attain this life and joy, and these exercises, along with the gentle instruction we find in the next paragraph, are among the means Jesus employs to fulfill his pedagogical purpose. 3 or 4 specific practice periods are recommended for this lesson for today. As you take the idea, I see no neutral things, because I have no neutral thoughts. You look at things after another. I do not see this, I do not see this neutral rock head because I don't have neutral thoughts about this rock head. You know, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. I don't see a neutral cutout of his head because I have no neutral thoughts about the cutout of the head. I love that cutout of the head, of his head. If you know, you know. I'm a huge fan of The Rock, and don't ask. Okay, moving on. Okay, 3 or 4 specific practice periods are recommended, and no less than 3 are required for maximum benefit, even if you experience resistance. However, if you do, the length of the practice period may be reduced to less than the minute or so that is otherwise recommended. Mention of our resistance is Jesus's helpful way of reminding us not to feel guilty. He would not bring it up as frequently as he does if he were not expecting us to be fearful of his teaching and thus seek to resist it. Learning to accept this resistance is an essential step toward letting it go. So just admit that we're resistant. It doesn't mean we're bad. You know, like I just said before, like, we don't want to be one. We want to be separate because we love it. Jesus knows that. Like, don't be afraid. You know, the Course says that Jesus knows that. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm glad I got another lesson in. I love Ken Wapnick. Again, I'm reading from A Journey Through the Workbook of A Course in Miracles. Journey Through the Workbook of A Course in Miracles. It comes in, I think, 7 volumes. In 7 volumes. We're only on volume 1, y'all. All the links are on the YouTube below to purchase all of these books. If you have any questions, let me know. This is heavy reading. Again, if you are listening to this, God bless you. If you're a course student, I feel you. But that is why I love to read these lessons and talk about it. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions. There's a playlist on the YouTube. So if you're on Facebook, hop on over to YouTube if this interests you in any way. And reach out if you need any support. I'm going to go to bed now. It is 11 p.m. All right, y'all. Isn't it a full moon tonight, I think? I need to go out and look at the moon, howl at the moon. I'm a werewolf. All right, I'm projecting the moon from my mind. We all are. Okay, great. I will see y'all mañana.